Right. I'd like to call this meeting of the Environmental Advisory Committee meeting to order, and it is Thursday, August the 11th, and we acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. First thing is approval of previous meetings minutes, which have been published from July.
I move the minutes be approved as written.
Second.
All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay. They are approved.
John.
John.
Okay, thank you.
I guess there are no citizens' comments. Are there any citizens' comments? Nope. All right. Moving on to old business, wildlife. Update on the ordinance prohibiting digging holes on the beach and consider alternative of public education campaign.
So Mary, if you're okay, I'll just kind of go through what's
Please.
happened and then let you kind of talk about your ideas about public education. So I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to tune into the council meeting where this ordinance was on the agenda for first reading. Council had it under consideration during the discussion at the council meeting. The ordinance that you all recommended came up. The police chief interjected and I think kind of made the case that for it to be a law at this point would cause them more challenges than he felt like it would help for them. He's indicated that they are routinely filling those in now, and that they could, I think, proactively advise people as they see them digging them that, hey, you need to fill those in. And I would say that he advocated for more of a public education effort first. Not to say that if that effort happens and it's unsuccessful and the problem doesn't get solved, that an ordinance couldn't come later. But I would say that his plea to the council was, at this time, let's try to do it with getting the word out, public notices, signage, any other means at this point, other than a law. I think he felt like there could be, and it's obviously all happening at a time when they're busy, and that he didn't want to create the false expectation that police officers would go out and write citations, which they indicated that they probably really wouldn't. And all that they would do if they were called would be to ask that they be filled in and actually fill them in if somebody left and they didn't get filled in. And I think he felt like that could be done
That would help.
already. Yeah.
I was on the beach with the chief this morning, and he told me that they were going around in the evening, beach services officers, and filling them up. Because I told him we're still getting calls. So I don't know when these holes are being dug, in the middle of the night or,
Yeah.
but maybe in the last week or two, it hadn't been so bad. I mean, really, I got some holes on Sullivan's Island, but not on the Isle of Palms
Huh.
this week. So I appreciated him doing that.
So I think, Mary, why don't you talk a little bit about your the
Yeah.
kind of idea and
This
what-
came about because Bev Miller, who is on the turtle team, and I think y'all know her as the director of the Barrier Island Protection Group, who is trying to advocate for residents, went to Hilton Head, and at Sea Pines Plantation, they had a turtle sign up at every path that had 4 bullet points on it. And I was on the beach with her and the mayor at a turtle nest when we started discussing this, and the mayor was very much in favor of it too. And then I was approached by a man who is on the ATAX committee who said, we really want to do something for the turtle team. Please give us an idea and I'll even help you write the application. And I said, well, this is what we'd like to do. So we're working toward getting an application for that. And Amy's been helping with the design of the sign. We did change her sign and y'all have gotten it. And we put fill in holes at the top. And we changed it from use only red flashlights on the beach, which we didn't think was gonna fly, to no white flashlights around the turtles. You know, we can't keep people from taking any flashlights out on the beach. They go hunting ghost crabs. And we left out the part about beachfront lights out, because this is for people, day trippers on the paths and people on the back of the island. We left that out and put leave no trash on the beach. We thought litter would be better than that, because the front beach house rentals get lights out information anyway. This is a whole different thing, and we've got the light switch stickers now in those houses. And the last thing was do not disturb nests. And there's a QR code. If people have questions, they can contact the turtle team and ask more questions or report anything that they see that might bother them. So we're still working on Amy's getting estimates on that, and we're talking to another printing company and see what a metal sign would cost. So that's where we are with that. And we're hoping that'll be a good thing instead of having the ordinance, if we can't get the ordinance.
I have a question on the ordinance point.
Yeah.
So concern of police chief was capacity, basically. That.
And I think managing expectations that they would
Report to the scene if someone calls.
I think that and or write a ticket, that it would be a citation and that there would be kind of this, if there's a law on the books, I think there is an expectation that they would write a citation if there's a violation of that law. So, and I think the perception of officers writing beach visitors tickets, I was my impression of kind of his point of concern.
Okay, yeah, just thinking about the cigarette ban, smoking ban, which you can make a similar argument for. But the ultimate reasoning behind that was to add additional disincentives for people, make it more clear what you're not supposed to do. Like even if enforcement is not really that manageable.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that some on council agreed with that either, because what I think along with what Douglas was saying, the chief was saying that there's this ordinance, if we made this an ordinance, there's not much more than that they would do than they're currently doing. Because if they see people digging holes, they remind them, hey, when you leave, before you leave the beach, please fill that hole in. They're stopping and doing that, the chief says. He also says that if they find holes that have been abandoned, as you said, Mary, they're going back and filling those holes in. And that it would be an unenforceable ordinance almost. And the council felt like they didn't want another unenforceable ordinance. And so that they agree that we don't want holes on the beach, but that would be best potentially addressed by education signs and as opposed to just putting another ordinance on the books.
Okay, and one thing I'm just curious about, that raise the point, the smoking ban's effectiveness, do we have somewhat numbers on the number of cigarette butts pre and post smoking
I was
ban?
actually just asked of him at the workshop. And he at the workshop indicated he didn't have the numbers but that exact question was asked. It sounded like some tickets had been written, not a lot.
But he has a different he has, I guess, how many cigarette butts they're picking up pre and post. I don't know. I guess
I
the
think
litter,
like
the
metrics,
litter.
right?
Yeah, I'm
We
just
brought it
curious.
up at the last meeting.
Right.
You were-
Did the smoking ban reduce the number of cigarette butts on the beach? Is that
Yeah,
the question? Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to get at a big picture question, which is for these things on the beach, which are hard to enforce, is it a good to pass these bans with the knowledge that it won't be enforced a lot, but it could lose some public perception? It's like a seatbelt. Yeah, like.
Yeah.
Or is it not worth it by the reasoning that we can't really enforce it? So just trying to.
So I think, as far as I know, Beach Santa is still tracking and keeping data on every piece so I do think that we could see, did the ban have a meaningful impact on the number of cigarette butts on the beach? Be an interesting piece of data.
This is purely anecdotal. But a friend of mine has participated in the beach sweep every Monday for a couple of years. And she said she has seen a significant reduction in the number of cigarette butts.
Maybe it is
So,
helpful.
I mean, that's one
Good.
person, but still.
Good.
I mean, I take Council's point too, and police chief's point, there are different ways to get at the same end goal, which way we want to do it. So,
And again, I think my perception was if this effort, and I quite frankly think this effort was going to have to happen anyway,
Right.
getting the word out that you can't do it. So my impression is the police department's activity is going to be identical, whether there's an ordinance on the books or not. So I think from that standpoint, it really is, it's kind of a bit of a non-issue. If they're going to treat it exactly the same and the effort's going to be to really push the word out, hopefully that'll have a measurable change.
And if we're still
improvement.
having issues, doing what's out of the law.
Right. Yeah. If it kind of comes back of, hey, we're telling people, we're finding them, and boy, if we could have written them a ticket, we could have solved it, but they're thumbing their nose at us. But I think his feeling is it's just not going to happen. They're going to do as they've been asked to do. And that some number of tickets wouldn't have made an impact really at the end of the day anyway. So I think that's kind of where we are in terms of next steps. Amy, as Mary had mentioned, has been working on kind of pricing, and I think the expectation is that we would have one at every beach access. I think closer to the beach end, instead of right now we do have a sign, at most, if not all, up at the roadside of the path, but this would be closer to the beach side of the path, maybe a little bit less cluttered and potentially attached to the beach access number sign. So there's already a sign there that would say 24, 25, and then something similar to this. This one is plastic, but that one's metal. So it would be a sturdy material that could withstand the elements out there.
Douglas,
we-
my only concern about, as I told Amy, about attaching them to the access signs on the beaches, that those go away, they get washed away whenever we have a hurricane. And Public Works has to, I was hoping maybe a little bit back.
Little bit
from-
in?
From the primary.
A new post,
dune.
probably.
On what?
Would there need to be a new post?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, and another thing with the signs on the beach down in my neighborhood at the south end, they get covered by sand
Mhm.
and they wash away when a hurricane comes. So that would be totally covered by sand
Hmm.
in another.
Well, so maybe we have to put it up by the road
I was thinking
or midway,
midway
maybe midway.
But
Like
just
right
behind,
where
or
the
just
dunes
behind the
start,
primary
yeah.
dune would be fine,
Mhm.
just so it wasn't
be-
prone to washing away or being covered by
It
accreting
would get more
sand.
attention that way as
Yeah,
well.
it would really be
On the
noticeable.
other hand, I think you're right. I don't know if this balances out, but we have talked in several meetings about so many signs and kind of littering our beach with do this, don't do that. Well, mostly don't do this, and signs and posts, and it's more things to maintain if we have to put up different posts. I mean, I like the efficiency of attaching it to something there, even if
Mhm.
it may not.
And not having to buy
Last.
those posts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
I agree.
want to point that out.
Mhm.
No idea is perfect, but that's something to consider cost wise, maintenance wise.
I think, Amy, do we think it would be about 5,000? Is that kind of the
higher
the metal?
like I think 80 squares down with so the higher end. For tax, that was 50. and that's-
And would that cover the signs, I mean, the paths in the middle of between the avenues, or just the main paths?
I think that's the main, that's not the mid block ones, because there's 58 blocks. So I
Yeah.
think that would be
Because
one
that
at
might
each
be
block.
excessive to have to put it at. Of
Every-
course, there's some blocks where the A path is the only one, like at 36 and
It's
37
just a
and,
four access.
yeah.
there's not
They're not at the avenues, they're in the middle of the block, but those would get it
avenues.
too, since there's no other path there. Okay,
Yeah, well, I said 50, but
Cause there's
Beach.
beach management. Plan. Cause there's
Oh, yeah.
4 blocks. And there's mid-block paths.
Yep, then there's not one. Let's take the place of the avenue.
Well, the ATAX people seem to really want to get on this idea if we could. And another member of the ATAX committee said, get it, your application in
Ocean
soon,
has
because we're spending that
2
kind
per
of
block, I
money,
think.
those kinds of funds now. So don't
Well,
wait
I would go with beach
to
management.
make the application.
Oh, it's right here, yes.
So maybe time was something to think about in our application.
you don't have to do the same way every time. If it's a popular path, you do it halfway down. and 1, 3, 4.
Uh-huh. Like at 21st, you could put it at the bottom of that boardwalk. It would be a really good place.
Mhm.
Yeah,
At the end of the boardwalk.
right.
I also think when you build in a budget for a grant or something, it might be good to consider not just the initial costs, but maintenance and overhead. You're gonna have labor for people to install the signs and
Replacement costs, if they get
replacement
stolen,
costs.
people
Right.
steal turtle signs.
Yeah.
yeah, replacement cost, or there's probably gonna be 1 or 2 that need to be replaced every year just from wear and tear or storm or something. So I would strongly encourage adding overhead, if you will, into the grant application.
Anything else about the signs? I have a couple of other wildlife updates if y'all will
Okay,
As-
I
bear
have
with
a
me.
couple of
Yeah.
sign things, but
Yeah,
I can
no,
give
no.
them to you and Amy afterwards. It's wording.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
to kind of wrap the whole issue. Is everybody okay with that initiative? We're gonna pivot to a public education campaign. It's gonna be, I mean, that's kind of at a high level. It's gonna be roughly 50 some odd signs at each beach access, look roughly like this. I think if you all,
Do we need a motion?
I think it would be, yeah, if that's kind of the direction of the group, I think it would be good to have that
My question
direction
is, with
officially.
The public education, we're really talking about signs. We're not talking about having a workshop or
I think we, only other thing,
We're talking about really signage.
and probably some
That'd be
some social media posts,
Mhm.
from through the police department and the city's sites to just put that word out. So that's really what I guess I'd envision, signs and social media posts. I think that's about the extent of what I had envisioned.
All right, who would like to make a motion that we go along with that and develop
I
this idea?
always make
I'm not sure what the wording is. What are we making a motion on that we
Yeah,
That
accept?
we apply to the accommodations tax. I'm not supposed to
I
do
think
it.
it's moving forward with a public education campaign about filling holes on the.
Yeah.
beach. And then,
I
and that
second that.
encompasses, yeah, and that encompasses the signs, the social media.
That
and your
sounds
impact.
good.
I don't think you have to put all of that in there. I think it's just moving
Okay.
forward with a public education campaign and all that.
Good, Nicole.
I make a motion that we move forward with a public education campaign regarding turtles on the beach.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. All right.
Mary, before we move on, I just have a question because I want to, speaking of education, I want to make sure I'm doing it correctly. So the white flashlights, you said around turtles, not on the beach. So somebody walking on the beach with their flashlight or cell phone, that doesn't disrupt the turtle's path?
Well, we worded it as if there are turtles on the beach,
Right,
turn off your white lights.
but I've been on the
But,
beach at night for years and I never see a turtle.
well, there are people running up and down chasing ghost crabs with their families, and we just
and
kind of,
running from the coyotes.
you can't stop them from doing that. But if there are hatchlings coming down, that cannot, they need to know that they should not.
So it's
have
really a
that.
concern for the hatchlings.
Mostly the hatchlings, and a nesting turtle would be deterred from, if they saw a nesting turtle coming out of the water, they should not have white lights.
Really?
That's why we put it,
Okay.
if they're around turtles. We try to be concise, but
Yeah.
Mary, when those hatchlings, when the hatching happens, is there always a turtle team present during those events, or some there
No.
are, some there aren't?
no, in fact, DNR does not want, it got out of hand about
With everybody
10 years
being
ago. Too many people with dogs and beer and coolers
flashlights?
and flashlights and
Noise.
children running around, and it got to be a circus, especially
Ah.
on Sullivan, but sometimes on Isle of Palms. So I met with them and said, this is a real problem on our beach. And they said, okay, we want from now on to say people are not to be at the nest when they're hatching. However, if we get a call from the police or even a concerned citizen that there's no moon, the turtles are going the wrong way, and there are people bothering a nesting turtle, we definitely respond. But
Hmm.
like last night was perfect. The moon was full and a big nest of 155 turtles boiled over on Sullivan's Island.
Wow.
And I told the people that called me, leave them alone. They're going to do it on their own. I didn't want to get up at 11 o'clock and go out there. And it was fine. But if there's a problem, we go.
Yeah, okay.
But not unless there's a problem, or if there's a nest we're worried about, they're going to be disoriented by lights
Okay.
or lack of a.
So
moon.
it does happen that people are just randomly on the beach, and it would be good for them to know, put
Yeah.
your flashlights away.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good to know.
Very good.
That's the deal. Other things I wanted to mention about wildlife today, for the first time in about a year, we had a bottlenose dolphin strand on the beach at 37th Avenue. It was dead, and it was a juvenile male dolphin. People that I was called by Consolidated Dispatch to go out there because I'm part of the Marine Mammal Stranding Network with NOAA. So I went out there, and that's when Chief Cornett came out and another officer, and we had to keep people and dogs away because there are dangerous bacteria that are transmissible to people and dogs. And people were horrified because this dolphin had huge parts of it missing. Something had eaten it. But the people from NOAA told me that it was emaciated, it was sick. They were taking it for a necropsy, and that it had died and then been chewed on
Mm,
either by sharks in the ocean or coyotes on the beach
Mm.
during the night. So the NOAA truck came, and I told them to come on the beach at 42nd Avenue, but they got stuck because the four-wheel drive
oh, no.
on the women's truck didn't work. But thanks to Chief Cornett and the police, they got the truck pulled out, and we lifted it with a sling and put it in the truck, and they took it. I've gotten a few words back on the necropsy, but I promised the chief I would send him a copy of it because he seemed very interested. And the other thing is, we have, as of now, 56 loggerhead nests. 30 of them have hatched, so we're over the hump. Just past halfway. 27 have been inventoried, and we've taken down the signs, so you'll see fewer signs, which is good. We've handled close to 5,000 eggs already.
Wow.
And the combined hatch success for both islands is at 77%, which is
great.
pretty good considering the coyote damage that we had. But I could go into more detail, but that's it's a pretty good thing.
Yay, turtle
This
team.
is not a record year for us. I don't know if it's going to be for the whole state, but it's a good year,
Good.
more than we had last year.
Always
Yeah.
learn so much from your updates.
Okay, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to do that or not. But I'll let you.
Nice.
Okay, next on, if there's anything else on wildlife?
No, I think this next one is more talk about signage, but I think it's tied to the litter
Litter,
update,
okay.
which is next.
Who is gonna handle that?
So on the Fisher recycling update, we do have, council approved entering into that agreement with Fisher. We have been back and forth and we have a proposed agreement with them. You'll recall that Doug had concern about the materials, basically the city being clear that there was no liability once the materials went into the bins. And he gave examples of, I guess places that took the materials and then weren't doing proper disposal and that liability coming back to the source of the trash. So or the recycling materials. So we're just ensuring that we're fully protected there, which everybody is agreeable to and okay with. We're just ensuring that we have the right wording there, which I think we will. Miss Fisher has also prepared a draft grant request, which we're also reviewing. It will technically be that the city would be the applicant in that regard, but she's taken a first draft at putting that together for us. So we appreciate that. And we're reviewing that and should have that together and submitted here within the next couple of weeks. So good progress being made on the Fisher recycling.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have any indication about the grant decision process, the timeline, how long that might take on whether we can grant?
We don't. I don't know that. We, like I said, we're just kind of pulling together an application now. So I don't know. And honestly, I think if we are successful, that will be great. If we're not successful, I think city council was agreeable that the service was, worth the investment, even if we didn't get the grant. So we're hopeful and we expect that we will be successful, but if we're not, I don't know that it's a do or die situation. I did want to just mention that the proposal had 2 locations. I think that one of the locations this is for pickup bins. One of the locations is not a problem at the marina. There's already a dumpster there. I think there's a natural place adjacent to the dumpster for the cans. That also is space that's under the city's control and jurisdiction. So that one's not a problem. The other one was the Harris Teeter. That one is obviously not under the city's control, so it would require participation from the beach company and probably also Harris Teeter. So it's a little bit more, and that may or may not be a problem, but clearly the city could do it without any issue in the municipal lots. Wanted to just get y'all's feeling on whether or not you felt like there would be, I guess from the city's perspective, it would always be cleanest if it was just a city project on city property. I guess contrary to that, there may be the concern that the lot is more out of the kind of the residence path, and that might hamper the usage. Do you all have an opinion on
To your last point, it is my belief, no research to back me up, but it's my belief that most residents are going to be the ones that take advantage of this glass recycling anyway. But it's my belief that they all go by pretty much the Harris Teeter or go into the Harris Teeter, and to have it at the municipal parking lot would mean crossing traffic and getting involved in the stop sign. So I would hope that Harris Teeter Corporate and the beach company would be agreeable, because the more convenient we make for deposits of the glass, the more use we're going to get out of the program. So feel pretty strong. It should be
that we try,
Yeah,
at least
try-
try, and if we,
because it's so convenient.
Yeah, my gut says that the Harris Theater is exponentially more accessible. And
okay.
And
Well-
if that doesn't work, here's an alternative that's close by, and the Public Works, where you go in those they go in those big gates right outside. There's a parking area across the street from Harris Teeter. But I like the Harris Teeter idea better,
I have
you
to,
know,
just a different
Public Works.
where
perspective.
the garbage trucks are,
Yeah, so
but
right,
not
right,
inside those gates.
right
Yeah,
here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we'll
It's right
try.
across from Harris Teeter, wouldn't require crossing the street, going
Okay.
both ways.
Well,
anyway.
we'll try the beach company and Harris Teeter. They've always been,
Or the liquor store.
is that popular with the
Glass to
residents?
glass boat.
I've heard that's very popular too.
That's where I get mine.
All right,
You have company.
all right, we'll try the the beach company. If they're not agreeable, we'll come back and revisit.
I use the municipal dumpsters. I have a lot of recycling, and for me personally, that's just another stop. If I have to go to
Behind
Harris
public-
Teeter for glass and over there for all my other recycling.
You're talking
So,
about
another
behind
thought.
the police station?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
the recycling
So,
back there.
I mean, I would still do it, but you know,
So what do they recycle? So I didn't know that was there. What are you recycling
Really?
there? I mean, I just throw my recycling in my recycling bin
yeah,
and that's enough for me.
Yeah.
But what else is being put in there?
If you have
They
big
have a-
cardboard boxes,
they have a trash
Mhm.
dumpster. They
Okay.
have, you could put almost anything there.
I
They-
thought that was just the restaurants up the ramp.
Well, nobody's told me that.
The compactor, the
It's got
compactor
a
is,
compactor. It's for the restaurants?
yeah. I'm gonna put Donnie Pitts on you, Deb.
We're recording it too.
Yeah, you're on record.
Okay, never mind. Take it back.
Delete.
Retract
backspace.
my statement.
All right, well, we'll try with the beach company on that effort. The other point of update for the litter is the last meeting, we talked a little bit about the lack of signage at the cigarette canisters. Amy, working with Sandy, has been able to get in coordination with the Surfrider Foundation, and we have sample signs for those. They are bigger than I thought. I don't know if that's a printing error or if Sandy, did you know they're kind of 2 feet
So
by
is that-
18 inches?
Was that the sign board that was bigger? What do you say that's bigger? Oh, hold on. I'm not muted in. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's bigger than what you thought it was?
Is that, I mean, kind of 2 feet by
18
inches, that's the size, maybe?
You know, I'm not really held one, so I wasn't sure exactly how big it was, but that looks about like what I expected.
Okay.
So the butt canisters that we purchased were a little bit larger than, and of a different, brand than what the Surfrider canisters are. And so I was a little worried that it might not fit on the sign, but it looks like there's plenty of room for it on the sign.
So I guess the canister goes and then
The canister goes right there, yeah. And then,
Oh, yeah.
there's a separate company that does the stickers that you put on the canister as well. So I thought that might jazz it up a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm glad it worked out pretty well, and Amy followed right up on it, and we
It's a
got.
nice sign.
Isn't that something?
Robert,
Very cool. So Robert's installing these, I guess, at each location where there's already canisters.
They're nice.
So one thing that I did find out when I contacted the people who make the butt canisters is that the canister that we purchased is one that is a little different from the Surfrider canister. It's a bigger canister, but it's one that the individual I spoke with didn't feel was very long lasting, I guess you would say. It comes from China. and it doesn't
Oh,
come
no.
from him. So I don't know if he was had a little bit of bias there, but he did say that the canisters that we purchased, that some of them have trouble with the locking mechanism that you use to empty it. So we may just want to keep an eye on that to see if it's sturdy enough for our environment.
Well, we will keep an eye on that. I mean, that is a practice that the Public Works Department is constantly kind of, their hands are on them, they're dealing with them. If it's not a sturdy, or if there's an issue, they will certainly switch brands and types. It's not unusual for them. So I'll ask that they monitor that.
Okay, and one other question that I have is regarding the butt canisters is, usage of the, Isle of Palms County Park. I think that the canisters are used on Folly Beach at the county park at Folly Beach. So I didn't know if there had been any, interest in speaking with the county park to see if they might be willing to, purchase some containers for the park. Seems like it would be a logical place to have some.
Yeah, it does.
We can certainly reach out to them. Let them know what we're doing and ask that they, consider doing the same. I think that's a great idea.
And I'm thinking they should be familiar with it.
Because they're already doing it on Folly.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Are there more on Folly Beach or is it just at the county park, like the county park system pay for that?
I don't know what kind of arrangement they have with regards to who pays for them at the county park. I think the county park pays. So it would be like a business having one available. Because it's not city property.
We'll reach out to them. We're in steady contact with the county park, so we'll reach out to them and ask that they consider doing the same. As far as I know, they're being well utilized. I know that they were. I haven't heard any additional feedback, but they're definitely being used, so that's good.
Okay, good. Good to know. Thank you.
Anything else on litter?
Yeah, I think this is under litter. The to-go where extension, that's.
Is it September?
Yeah, it's the start of September, right?
Yeah, I think it's the exemption that was extended winds down.
2 weeks.
Yeah, in a few weeks.
Cool. I'm wondering if we have a sense of whether things are looking good for them actually being on track to replace their styrofoam containers and whatnot. Whether there's any way to check in and at this juncture maybe offer some assistance. I was talking with Kelly Thorkelson the other day, and she did research ahead of this extension. She called distributors and said, no, there's no supply chain issue. Like, this is available for this price. So I think we could connect with her if there is difficulties with the restaurants. So I was wondering if it would make sense to.
My impression was that at the time, that issue had already resolved itself. There was availability, and the reason for the extension was solely to allow the exhaustion of the existing inventory. And I think it was intended to be a very clear message. If you got the inventory, use it up now, because this is the last. Don't buy any more of it. So it's a good idea, though, I think, to just verify that, that they're ready to switch over if they haven't already. But yeah, I think the issue of availability had already kind of worked itself through.
Yeah, I just know that the restaurant community had issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was existing stock of
Okay.
materials.
And they've had good warning. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And extension.
yeah. Okay. Right, are we ready to go on to water quality? Update on drainage master plan?
So I still kind of monthly reach out to Charleston County, and I'll continue to do that. And we may be at a point, and this is actually slightly unrelated, but our water group was planning to sit down with Charleston County's stormwater experts and talk about the possibility of a monitoring program or some type of program to start digging in on the water quality of what's leaving the backside of the island. Has not been, there hasn't been any progress made on that, but we'll continue to try to set those up. On the drainage master plan, that is being done by Davis and Floyd, the city's consultant in that regard. They're moving along nicely. They do have a project that the city is going to be pursuing grants for to handle stormwater along Ocean Boulevard. There's a section between the commercial district and about 4th Avenue that has no collection system. There are just no roadside ditches or drains there. And during heavy events, there's a collection issue there. Historically, the theory is that water would go out to the front side, was when there wasn't really a primary dune, it could just go out to the ocean and it wasn't an issue. But as that primary dune is built up, the water is held back on the roadside significantly during those events. So they are planning a collection system and what they're calling a dune infiltration drainage system that would basically be underground chambers that would hold the storm water in the sandy soil in these chambers and allow it to penetrate down into the groundwater. It's a process that's been used in North Carolina. It's been thought of as a good environmental practice to not, otherwise the water goes through the drainage system and straight out into the back marsh. This way, it gets filtered through the sands and the soils and doesn't put trash out into the waterways. So
Does it keep water from pooling on the streets and sidewalks?
yes, yeah, collects that water in a
And
traditional.
somehow gets it out beyond the front beach houses to the dunes?
Well, it actually would sit underground in the beach paths. And
Oh,
so there would be a process of really digging up those strips of land and filling those strips with gravel and these chambers that would hold the water underground until it dissipated into the groundwater.
Is that a process that can be used, or is it being considered to be used for some of the other flooding issues along Palm Boulevard?
So the advantage of this
I mean,
system,
there's the test case.
yeah, it is a bit of a test case. The advantage of it is that it negates the need to trench, in this situation, a quarter mile back, which obviously is expensive when you're dealing with utilities and asphalt. And so it's a way of kind of shortening the system and thereby saving expense. I do think if it's successful, it will certainly be replicated in those areas that are isolated. So when you don't have a pipe that you can connect to within, a close distance, it makes a lot of sense. So
So it's not really a consideration for improving some of the holding
It-
pools. That
no,
we
it
have
would.
now.
It absolutely would.
Good,
It
'cause I
will
know
address.
there are a lot of-
on the
So-
paths, so many
Yeah,
paths
on the
become
paths there's a lot, yeah.
impassable when it rains heavily for a few days. You can't even get out the paths.
Yeah, now
Because
that
people have
probably,
filled to build big new houses, and then there's a trench where the path is.
right. Yeah, this would really be more to get it off of roadways.
Oh,
Paths, we have talked about doing with either footbridges or grading up, kind of matching the elevation on the other sides. But this would be, you have sections of Palm that hold significant water. So we think it would, if it works well, which we expect it will, we think it would be a good tool to, we've never done it out here. Historically, everything we collect in those drains all eventually makes its way out to the backside of the island.
And what is the system called? Dune chambers or?
Dune infiltration system. And I will share with you, it's pretty amazing to see what it looks like. I'll share with you an example of the one that they did in North Carolina,
Okay.
right along the coast, very similar environment to where we would be using it. So I think that master planning project is going well. They had a target for the end of the calendar year, which I think they're still on track to meet. And a part of that plan also will be coming up with standards to improve, construction practices out here. to hopefully reduce some of the stormwater issues that get generated by construction projects. So I think they're doing good work and moving forward.
With the updates to buildings also within the calendar year? Or is that
Yes.
blocked out?
Yeah, that is, in their sequence, in their kind of calendar, that was at the end. That was really the tail end of their project, but I know they're working on that now, and they've actually identified two different kind of case studies of where construction has happened, the perception from the neighborhood, or at least some people around the project, was that construction made their situation worse. And it's instances where, from the city standpoint, the construction adhered to all of the standards, did all that was required of them, but still generated problems. So those are kind of the examples that we want to look at, did what they were able to do under existing law cause problems? And if so, what could we have done differently that would have kept those problems from happening? So I know they're doing that. They're like I said, they're kind of analyzing at least two very specific problems that happened, and to see if what could have been done differently in those situations, and formulate their recommendations around examples that we've had.
As if we've had anything further on water quality testing.
That would just be setting up this meeting. And we may need to, Charleston County is not being responsive to that request for whatever reason. And we may want to get together with our group and just talk about, that was our identified kind of next hurdle or next step. Maybe we want to identify a different next step. That's been a challenge to set that up.
And we needed their participation.
I think it would have been nice. Yeah. I mean, to say we needed it, I think we could have done something without their participation, but I do think it would be nice to have them participate.
Got good answers from the water keeper. How much it costs.
Yeah. So I think we could, if we wanted to kind of just pursue, what the waterkeeper group suggested we pursue, maybe we just do that. But let's maybe try try one more month to get the county together. And if we're not successful in a month, then we'll pivot to just doing what we,
We can just sit down, go over basically what we know thus far.
right.
Is that-
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mary, that's all I have.
Any other business to come before the committee?
Douglas, we had talked about the numbers on the coyote reports.
Mm,
Were you able to get any information
I-
on that?
I failed to even ask, so
Okay.
I will certainly ask what those numbers are.
If there's no other business,
I move the meeting be adjourned.
I second.
all in favor? Okay. Thank you very much.
For record.
Yeah, I think that.
I was thinking about your idea about the sign.
Wait, I got two things.
And I